Good afternoon, everyone. It's Michelle Hill with Southern Inspirations. I hope everyone is enjoying this wonderful afternoon. It's so pretty and sunshiny outside. I'm so just pleased and honored to come to you this afternoon to start a series talking about mental health. You might have seen earlier today that I posted something about being kind to your mind during a crisis and beyond. It is so very important. So, my very first guest in a series about mental health is Adrienne Meachum. Good afternoon, Adrienne.
Hello.
How are you doing?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah.
Good. I'm enjoying the sun. It's nice to see it. We've had so many rainy days, and that always helps a mental perspective,
It
doesn't
really, really does.
it? Well, thank you so much for your willingness to be my guest and for your transparent spirit, your candor that you're going to share with us about part of your personal journey with mental health. Um, I think it's brave. I think it's a wonderful service to others, to the community. And, you and I were talking before we went live. And let me see if I can find this before I even say it to pop it up. There we go. We've titled this Being Mindful of Mental Health, One Woman's Story. And you said something to me about that. And what was that?
I just said that I love that you titled it One Woman's Story because my story is not unique. It is in the particulars, but in the overarching, just mental health, anxiety, depression, and all the things that come along with that. I mean, so many other women have this same story.
Yeah.
Um, and I've always found it very helpful to hear from other women who've had similar experiences. And I really want to normalize this as just part of our lives, and make sure that remove some of the stigma from taking care of your mental health, because it's just like taking care of a sinus infection or a bum
Right.
knee or anything else like that.
Yeah. Well, thank you again. I know you've done a lot of work to get to this place, and
Still working.
still, it's a we are all work in
Yeah.
process, right?
Yeah.
And in every aspect of our health and well being, it's a constant daily moment, sometimes moment by moment work.
It is.
Well, y'all, before we dive into Adrienne's story and those nuggets of what she wants to share today, I do want to mention that Adrienne is a Maumelle, Arkansas resident and business owner. She has an interior design company, and toward the end of our time together, we will share a little bit more about that company because it has been a journey and it's been some work to get to this place. But I did want to go ahead and mention and let you know that she is an entrepreneur and has an amazing business and some great services to offer, including virtual consultations. So, Adrienne, let's kind of get started. I'm going to take these glasses off. I always get a glare on these things, and you were a stay-at-home mom. Let's rewind.
Yeah.
Several years. Start at the beginning of your journey. You were a stay-at-home mom for 13 years, and
Yes.
during that time, you supported your husband while he went back to school. And these are my words, y'all. Kind of chased his dream. He chased his thing, and you were the mom. So, walk us through kind of that season of life and what that was like. And then also, if you'll include maybe some maybe key signs that you had or some signals that you will, that, oh, something must be not quite right here.
Yes. So we got married young, and we had kids right away. So I was nursing a 3-week-old baby when I turned 21. So Neither of us had finished school. Both had started, but neither had finished. But we both wanted me to stay at home with the kids. So he went to work and I stayed home with the kids, and we were broke. But there was a 5-year time period there where we only had one car. And so those financial strains were difficult through most of that time, most of those 13 years. And, just being home with 3 kids all day long, can be a little maddening. And then when you can't afford to take them anywhere or put them in Mother's Day out, it gets really,
Yeah.
um, and then Brian did go back to school. So I didn't just have kids all day long. I had kids while he was in classes, and they were in bed a lot of times before he even got home from class. And I guess as far as my anxiety goes, I've always had some anxiety, but it was not quite so day to day. Like, I've always had social anxiety. I do things like, if I go into a new venue and I'm not sure who's going to be there, if there's a guest list, I check the guest list to see if I know anyone. I will Google the location and make sure I know where to park and where the front door is. And so those are just some crazy things that I do to lower my anxiety. And I've always had that. Phone calls have always been hard for me, and it's ridiculous. And I know it's ridiculous, but I can see the crazy, but I can't do anything about the crazy. So
Oh,
that's always been hard for me, making doctor's appointments and just calling to ask somebody a question. Somebody I've never seen, I'll never see ever again, and they don't care who I am. And so those were probably some of my biggest
right.
signs.
And
But
the mention of being at home with the 3 children all day long. I know that a lot of parents, not just moms, but a lot of parents are feeling that squeeze right
right
now
now,
as
yes,
we are in this crisis, and we've all been catapulted into, for many, positions in day-to-day operations. It's that we've not been in before. So you firsthand understand those stresses that come with being with your children all day long, and the burden and the strain. And quite frankly, it takes away from what could be self-care. Like, there is no time for self-care oftentimes, because by the end of the day you're spent, right?
yes. Well, we always had a rule with our kids, that it was probably 8 o'clock when they were in elementary school. At 8 o'clock, you go upstairs. You don't have to go to sleep right away. You can
Right.
read, you can do homework, but you are going upstairs because mom and dad need
The, the
to be.
time.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I
And
think
that's
that
good.
was a helpful thing for us. And
Right.
now they're kind of trained. Like,
Yeah. Well, and that brings up a good point, and I'm sure you're going to get to this later, is boundaries, and establishing those boundaries and building in that time for self-care, or building in that downtime, if you will. So then fast forward a little bit to when you got back into the workforce. I know you did go back to school, so
I
you're
did.
finished. And so then
Yeah.
at 33, you had an opportunity, excuse me, to then go complete your degree and to pursue interior design at UCA. And so you got through that, and you even mentioned in your notes to me that there were often times that you would sit in the car and have anxious moments before even getting out and going into class.
I
And
would
so,
cry from Maumelle to Conway and
gosh,
then pull myself together before I went into class.
before you went in.
So, I can kind of see as that's where things kind of started to get out of control. But I, of course, saw it as a situational thing. Like, once I get out of school, I won't be under this much stress, and it'll be fine. And so, I think that's when it kind of started to creep in on me, I guess, is when I was
Mm-hmm.
in school.
Right.
As I was a very dedicated student, probably a little more dedicated than I should have been, considering that I had a family. But if I had it over to do again, I would probably let a few bees slide through there. So
Oh goodness, yeah. You didn't realize then you didn't have to have the 4 point.
yeah, that's just how that's
You
part of how
know,
I'm built.
kind of how you're wired. Yeah,
And I'm healthier now, so I think I would have had I would
yeah,
have better boundaries now than I had
right.
then.
Yeah. So then you went on and you took a position. It wasn't in. You started out part time, right? And that was
Right.
even that turned out not to be such a
Yeah.
good scenario.
Right. Well, when I was in school, I actually wanted to work in the commercial ID interior design, like with an architect firm or something like that. And then when I graduated, even though I'd worked really hard in school and I'd done everything right, um, there just weren't those jobs available. And this is one, there are so many times in this story where I can look back and say, this was God saying, you think that's what you want, but that's not what you want. And so, him just guiding my path. And because after I'd been out of school for a little while, I just realized, how that pace was not something that I could maintain long term. And if I went to work in an architect firm, the pace would be, um, it would be a fast paced,
Right.
8 to 5. We've got a project due. Where do you think you're going? You know,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
so. Um, so yes, there was a part-time position, and I took that. I was really excited about that, and I really learned so much doing that. But I was supposed to be sharing time with someone else, and the other person wasn't working, so I was trying to do all the jobs in 3 days, and I just got, and I was doing all of the office work and all the site visits, all the drawings. So I just thought, well, if I can, run this office, then I can run my own office. So I ventured first time into my own business, but I didn't go about it the right way. And soon after that, a couple of months in, when I wasn't making any money, I was contacted by UCA, and they needed someone to teach a few adjunct courses. So I started to do that, thinking it would be the perfect opportunity to grow my business while teaching part time. But teaching adjunct is not a part time job. It's a very full time job. I was probably working 50, 60 hours a week um, teaching 3 adjunct courses. And I did that for 4 semesters. And my final semester, I I was already just kind of a nervous wreck. I just always had that feeling in the pit of my stomach, always a
Hmm.
little sweaty. Just like um, a little shaky. Um, but I had a student that it was a really bad situation. Um, and she just had me in fight or flight every time I saw her face. And I just really, at the end of that semester, I didn't have any more to give to the students. At that point, I was in a downward spiral, and I was going to lose my paycheck over the summer because my paperwork to get my pay moved from a 9 month to a 12-month schedule was didn't make it to the office, and so I my previous boss had hired someone full time, and they were looking at a really big job, and they wanted someone part time. So I came back into that job thinking, I know what I'm getting into. I had all these excuses for why it was going to be better this time. She had a full time employee. I was just going to be part time. Um, and so that, and then a few months after I started back there, um, the full-timer left, and I was really hesitant to go back to teaching. I was really feeling like a failure at this point. I didn't get the job I wanted coming out of college. I couldn't run my own business because at this point I'd closed it down. Um, I couldn't handle my students in my classroom. So I was just feeling very much like I was just failing at life on all fronts.
Yeah, probably just really overwhelming too. I mean, that was just a whole lot going on.
Well, and this is just my work
Yeah,
life. I mean, I've also
yeah,
got
right,
3 kids
right.
and a
The
husband,
kids.
and
Yeah,
so trying to juggle all of that, and a lot
right.
of times I would just come home exhausted and just fall asleep on the couch,
Yeah,
and that's not healthy, and that's not good, and
right, right.
so
But you began to kind of have some turning points. And one thing I noticed in the story that you shared with me as we were preparing is you had some key people along the way. I know you reached out to a psychiatrist friend.
yes.
You mentioned a networking group that you were invited to that you attended, and then I believe there was a was it a garbage collector or who? I was trying to think. There was one.
That was kind of the
I was
incident that happened that kinda made me go, "Whoa, this
right.
is
So
getting
tell us
pretty."
about some of those kind of key events or circumstances where it kind of even brought things, I guess, even more to light.
Well, I was self-medicating. I would come home from work, and my son and my daughter were both playing basketball, and she is in the band, and so, I would come home from working full time with someone who was not easy to work with, and then be expected to go to a loud gymnasium full of people, and I'm very much an introvert, so I need quiet and I need no people to recharge. And so I was taking shots of vodka just to be able to, not have that giant pit in my stomach and not be shaking like a leaf. And um so there was that. And then
Not the healthiest choice, of course.
not and this all happened, the self-medicating and then this happened in pretty quick succession. So fortunately, I never developed an addiction. But that's a really dangerous. I knew that
Right.
I was on dangerous ground.
Yeah.
Um, so one day I'm at work and we have this nice gentleman who would come and pick up our garbage, and he liked to get his check when he would come. So try to always make sure that it was ready. Well, one particular time we had mailed it. I don't remember if it was because there had been a holiday and he'd missed it. I don't remember. So he comes in and he gives me an invoice for the previous month, and I'm like, "We've already paid this," and he's like, "Well, I don't have it." And so anyway, we figured it out. We worked it out. Um, and the thing is he was a little upset because people get upset over their money, but I never felt threatened or anything like that. But when he left, I was shaking from head to toe, and
Wow.
I had to cry. And so at that point, I reached out to my psychiatrist friend and said, "Hey, how do you know when you need to go
Something's
see
up.
someone?" And,
Oh,
looking
wow.
back, it's like, well, obviously you needed to see
Yeah.
someone, but it kind of sneaks up on you slowly. It doesn't happen overnight. And so you kind of
Mm-hmm.
adjust along the way until you just reach this point where you can't handle your life. And my
Yeah.
first thought in the morning was, I hate my life. And that's not true because I'm
Oh,
really
wow.
blessed. I'm
Yeah.
so blessed and
Yeah.
I'm so thankful
Yeah.
for my life. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so I went to my PCP, and he gave me medication, and he told me to see a therapist because he said the medications, it'll help, but what's really going to make a difference is seeing a therapist. And I did not want to do that, not at all. So I had to be medicated for about 2 months before I could actually make the phone call to get on the schedule. And here's another little God moment. My psychiatrist friend had recommended 3 people to me, and one never called me back, and one was not going to take my insurance anymore. And then I ended up with Janet, and I love her. Like, the only way I'll ever stop seeing her as a patient is if we can be best friends.
Oh, that's good that you have that relationship. So she's made a big difference.
Yes, it did make a
That,
big difference.
yeah,
She
yeah,
just kind of helped me to a little bit of self-discovery, to get to know
right.
myself better. One of the first things she recommended to me was to figure out what my Enneagram number is. I don't know if you're familiar with the Enneagram. I can
I
be a
am.
little obsessed with the Enneagram because of what the impact, just how true I found it to be for me, and the impact that it's had on my life to just know myself better, so that I can draw those boundaries. So I can say,
Right,
okay, this is my 9ness, and either this is just the way it is, and so we're gonna have to work around this, or it's time for me to put on my big girl panties and get over this, just depending on what it
right.
is. Um, so yeah, the major changes did not take place. I'm not going to say I don't need the medication, because I do, and I know that I do because I've had several changes up and down, and I got into a bad spot at the end of the year last year because we decreased my dose too much, and um, so it's still kind of we're just monitoring it and changing when necessary. So I know that I need it, but the real changes have taken place through the self-discovery, um, and getting to know myself and learning to be kind to myself.
Yeah,
Stopping some of that negative self-talk, and trying to look at failure as just a sign that it's not going to work that way, but we'll see if we can get it done another way. So yeah, therapy is definitely
yeah.
was
Well, one thing that I really admire and respect about your whole story, and you referred to it a couple times, and that is self-awareness and self-discovery. And that is so important, because if we have our heads in the sand, so to speak, on certain behaviors or certain triggers, certain causes, that cause us to act or react in certain ways, and we don't realize it,
yeah,
that can be so incredibly dangerous, versus the willingness. It takes that willing spirit to say, hey, I know something's out of whack here.
and a
And
curiosity. Be like, okay, I'm
yes,
feeling
and
this way. Why am
yeah,
I feeling this
yeah.
way?
What's
Like,
going on here?
am I jealous? Am I like, or
Yeah, right,
what
right,
triggered that reaction? Like, why do I feel this way? And then, because then you can
right,
address that problem instead of
right.
um, being angry or
Yeah.
frustrated or
And getting to the core of kind of what's going on. And then, like you said, and the Enneagram helped do this too, how to address it if
right.
you kind of get to the core of what's going on, or if you know what triggers certain emotions, and that that's a dangerous spot for you to be, then trying to discover ways not to put yourself in those circumstances or those moments that would cause the triggers, perhaps.
Yeah. So as a 9, when I'm unhealthy, I fall into an unhealthy 6, and we are paranoid, and I need lots of assurances. So, when I start thinking, I think she's mad at me. I mean, maybe I should call so and so and see if they think she's mad. Then I'm like, okay,
It's time. Like,
you're
back up,
in.
sister. Yeah,
Yeah.
we've crossed over the line.
Yeah.
Gosh. Well, you have done so much work, and I think that's what we all have to do. And Adrienne, it's so relevant to what's going on now. And I don't know how many weeks, well, you already worked from home, and I did too, but in terms of self-isolation or self-quarantining, because my family and I mean, my husband still has to go out some, but my daughter and I made the decision. We're either on our, I think this is our 5th week. I know it's my 5th week, and I'm beginning to wonder if it's the 6th, but here we are in, whether it's week 5 or 6, that's several weeks that we've been in this house. And as strong of a woman, emotionally and spiritually and intellectually and all those things that I am, and I feel like I'm in a pretty good healthy state, I have to be very, very mindful that I could really at any moment, I don't want to say lose it, that sounds a little extreme. I don't want to get too cray cray and too out there, but I have to do those things to keep myself healthy. I am guilty of sitting at this desk in this home office way too many hours at a time. And on my Monday morning huddles with Dr. Dawn Hamby, that's one of the things that we've talked about a whole lot. Is that's one of her tips, is building in the 10-minute stretches and things like that. So my point in bringing myself into it is that we are all affected right now, and we must be very, very intentional, regardless of where our mental health was pre-COVID.
Yeah, you're probably going to have to find a new thing.
Exactly.
That makes you okay.
Yes, times are a changing, and I'm in all of the promotion of this, I'm trying to be very intentional and very careful to say, hey, y'all, mental health has always been important. I mean, what you experienced had nothing to do with the pandemic we're in. Praise God, though, Adrienne, that you did all of that work prior to now, and you are in a better place because of that work now that we are in the pandemic. With all the different folks who are watching right now and all the different people who will watch, at some point we all have a different story in different places of where we are. And I would love to hear from you just some very practical advice or tips or anything that you can offer, that regardless of where any of us are, whatever our state is with mental health, what can all of us do every day, even if we start small, the baby steps to make sure we are being kind to our minds, and almost exercising, like, I'll just call it preventative measures.
Yeah.
So that we don't get to an unhealthy state. What do you say to that?
Well, for me, sunlight's very important. So, getting outside and getting a little exercise in the sunlight is always very helpful, especially for depression. But
Yeah.
deep breathing is great for anxiety. There's a method where you draw in your breath and you count when you do that. So if you draw in your breath for a count of 6, and some people it might be a 4, and some people it might be 8, then you breathe out to twice that count. So if you breathe into a 6, you breathe out to a 12. So you just do that, for 30 seconds or so. And some people have like a relax function on their watch that could help them do that. But that really helps to just kind of slow your heart rate down and calm that anxiety.
Right.
And for some people it might be different things. For me, a hot bath. I mean, if I've had a really rough day, I'm just like, babe, I've just got to get in the bath. So, that could be, something different. Some people might be a really hard workout. For some people, it might be a book, or which I usually read a book in my bathtub. Because it's just it's a little escape
Right.
from everything that's going on around me.
Yeah.
And just, I just need to be out of that reality for 30, 45 minutes, and then I can come back. But yeah, definitely some exercise and some deep breathing.
Yeah.
Diet never helps. I mean, it never hurts to have a great diet, but I mean, mostly just like you said, being kind to yourself. You know,
Hmm.
okay, so I ate a half a package or a whole package of Oreos today. That's not great, but um, you
Try
know,
not to do it tomorrow.
I won't do it tomorrow. Yeah.
Well, and I mean, I think we all could use a little grace to ourselves as well. As a society, I see so much good happening right now. As crazy as this is, I see people being more open, more loving, more giving, and offering grace to others, and I'm seeing humility. All these are just wonderful things in the middle of a crisis, but oftentimes we don't offer ourselves grace.
Right.
So I think that always helps as well. Wow, this has been so good. So I want to for sure talk about your business because you did start that in 2019. Is that right? Last year?
Yes, March 1st last year.
I was going to say it's been just about a little over a year.
Yep.
You started Whitcross Interiors. Let me pop. I've got your logo up there. I'm going to go ahead and put your website in. Um, Tell us all about that, what you're doing, the services that you offer, the adjustments. I mentioned the virtual consultations at the beginning, but tell us all about your business and if you specialize in anything, if you're offering, anything special right now, just anything you want to share about that. And of course, your journey that, what in terms of the mental health, at what point did you decide, hey, I'm going to start my business again, and this time I'm going to do it different?
Yes. Yeah, so I'd been working on my mental health, and I was working with my old boss on a large commercial project, and Lisa Havner of LA Designs. She is an environmental. Um, she's a signage company. I'm sorry, Lisa. I said the wrong thing. Um, and she helped us with the signage at that building. She did all of our interior ADA signage, and she invited me to visit a BNI group, and I was hesitant because social anxiety. So I put a quarter of a Klonopin in my pocket. And I went to this meeting and I was shaking so bad all the way there. I just couldn't keep even pressure on the gas pedal. And so it was like,
Yeah.
um, so I got there and of course everyone was lovely. But the idea of that group, of coming back to network with the same people in the same location every week really appealed to my social anxiety.
You're like, I can handle this.
Yeah. So, because once I get comfortable in a group, I'm pretty fine,
Yeah.
pretty fine. So talked to my boss, and at the time, things were really slow, and we didn't really have any clients, and so I started to go. In August, I joined, and then by January, I had like 8 clients of my own. And so I was doing, working with those clients and still running the office and doing all of those things. And so I just had a conversation with my boss and I asked her for a few things. And one of those included, like, so at what point would we maybe be thinking about hiring someone else, just part time, maybe, just, so that I'm not so overwhelmed because I was working nights and weekends to keep up. And I'm a 9 and we don't like to do that. And that makes us really tired. And so for my mental health, I didn't need to do that. So uh, she, well, it was clear that she was going to decide when I was too busy. And I knew that that would be way past the point where I would be too busy. So I started on a plan to leave. And actually, I tattooed myself. Um, I got a tattoo on my arm that says audacious. And it was just a reminder that, I can be brave and I can take risks And when I want to accomplish something, I am brave and I do take risks. And so then in February, the stuff just kind of hit the fan, and it was clear that it was time for me to go out on my own. Even though my plan wasn't to really do that until August or September. It happened last year, March. So in 2 weeks, I got incorporated and got web page up and kind of got everything rolling. And so and BNI has helped me to be more confident and to network. It's been really good for my personal growth as far as networking goes. So
Good.
I've also network with the women's influencers and a couple other groups in town, which was really what I was missing the first time around, was that networking, because you really kind of have to go out there and capture those clients and
Right.
let them know
Right.
that you're out there.
Right.
So, Whitcross Interiors, I'm a full service interior design firm. I do both residential and commercial work. My passion is remodeling, kitchen and bath, especially as far as residential goes, because I really like. I just feel like that's the best way I can have the biggest impact on my clients' lives, so that I can come in and solve some problems that they're having in their space, and if we got to take out some walls and move some stuff around, that's even better. Becomes a puzzle. It's kind of a complex, problem solution, and then we might make it beautiful, of course. But functional first, because it doesn't matter how pretty it is if it doesn't work. um, I do color consultations because it's a great way to build trust with my clients. And then right now I'm offering services for your backdrop on your video. Because
The virtual backgrounds?
well, you can use a
Or
virtual background, but
oh, you mean like a literal, like what's back
yeah,
behind?
like what's behind you.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's
Yeah.
such a great opportunity to promote
Oh,
your
right.
brand, and
Exactly.
to share a
That's
little
right.
bit of yourself with your clients.
Right.
Some of that transparency, some of that, just that personal touch.
Right.
So I just, noticed the first few days that I was on calls that me too, not just, the people I saw.
Right. That's some pretty rough
So
stuff back behind some of those people.
So I worked on my backdrop, and I offer virtual consultations, and we can do that all. We can all do that all over the internet. And as far as remodels go, a lot of that initial stuff can happen, until it comes to construction. A lot of
Yeah.
that can um, happen virtually.
Right.
So, sometimes, it can take a month or a month and a half to get a plan together and get everybody on the same page. So, if somebody just wanted to start that initial kind of creative phase, then we could definitely get to work on that, and have a
Yeah.
plan when we come out of this
Yeah.
COVID-19.
So you can work with people, whatever they want to do.
Yes.
Walk them through all that. I love the idea of the color consultations too. That's really neat. So, wow. So you have come a long way. You've done a lot of work. You've been very intentional. I love that. I love that you have built a networking community. You've made connections with other women. You have raised children through all this. Married. You managed to navigate through all of that, and I think that's amazing. I think it's very admirable. I just love the perseverance and the tenacity that I know that took. And you may not recognize that about yourself, but you had the persistence and the determination, and you're like, it was almost like saying to yourself, I will not let this beat me. I will not, I will
Yeah.
find out what's going on and get
Right.
healthy.
Yeah.
And so you're at a good place, knowing that it still takes work. And again, we've talked about it. We all need work. It takes work, every single day. But thank you again, just for sharing, for being transparent, and willing to put yourself out here like this and to share your story. And, I go back to kind of what we opened with, and that again, it's one woman's story, but it's probably one that resonates with a whole lot more than one woman.
Yeah.
And so I hope that you and I together by doing this are a source of encouragement to another woman. Um, and I hope that people feel like they can talk about it and can reach out for help. I want to put your phone number up here as well, because we want people to know how to get in touch with you if they want to talk about you redoing their backdrops.
Yep.
Show up better for their calls, or if they want to redo an entire house, or if they want to just talk to you about being brave and stepping out and embracing whatever it is they need to be kinder to their mind. So anything else, Adrienne, that you'd like to share or say before we wrap it up?
Um, you said maybe I didn't recognize the tenacity and I didn't until I went to therapy. So if you guys are out there and you're feeling like a failure, go back and look at your accomplishments. Look at what you have accomplished and write it down and be proud of
Like
yourself
that.
for that. And know that while today might not be a good day, that you can accomplish many more things in the future.
Wonderful advice. I love it. Well, thank you again. Just appreciate it so much. I've enjoyed it. For everyone that's watching, thank you for tuning in. Thank you for being supportive of this topic. And Adrienne and I ask you to share this post over and over. Tag individuals who might have a family member who just need to watch and be encouraged. Help us spread the word. Please be sure to tune in for the next 3 broadcasts that Southern Inspirations will be doing on mental health. We will have health experts. We'll have folks from the front lines and speaking to mental health from various different perspectives. So thank you again,
Thank you for having me.
everyone. Great to see you again, Adrienne. And when we all get out of our homes, I'll see you around Maumelle.
All right, sounds good.
All right, everybody have a wonderful afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.